Learn how to request data safely across different domains using JSONP. In this lesson, we want to look at how you can request data safely across different domains using the script tag instead of the normal XML HTTP request that the browser provides. Exactly what is JSONP? Well, it simply stands for JSON with padding. You already know what a JSON is, JavaScript Object Notation. But this time around, what we are talking about has P at the back. That is JSON Object Notation padding. And that exactly is what this JSONP means. And it uses script tag instead of an XML request when it wants to request data across different domains. So let's look at an example of how this can be done in JavaScript. Ideally, we are going to be requesting a data from a server, which means that we need a server and a way to pass information from that server to our script, which is our front end part, which is where we are working in right now. So in order to do that, I have already constructed this file. It's called demo_jsonp.php, and it has just this variable and then a way to echo that variable out. So it contains just this simple variable and a way to echo it out in PHP. You can see opening and closing PHP, which means that I'm running on a PHP server. And if you look at my file, you can see that it is even index.php. So I'm using a local PHP server in order to pass my code for it to be able to show on the screen. So this setup is nothing fancy and it's no big deal. You can just get any PHP server, put your file inside, your folder inside it, and from inside it, then you can run your code and see the output as I'm going to be showing you in this example. So the example we are going to be looking at here is very, very short and very brief. So its purpose is just to demonstrate how we can request data from a server and then display it on the screen. So without further ado, let's move into our script tag. And the first thing I want to do is that I want to make a function. And then I'll call this my func. And now, inside this my function, I want to pass in a method, document.getElementById demo dot inner HTML is equals to my object dot init. Now, if you look at what I currently have on the screen, well, I have actually not defined my OBJ. And you can see that instantly my code editor is flagging it, which means what I am trying to access does not exist yet. So in order to make it exist, I will just pass it in here as a data or as a parameter into my function. And you see that immediately I did that, then that notice went away. Now that I've done this, it is now time for me to make use of my file inside my script tag. So the way JSONP works is that you actually don't put everything inside your, you put your script code inside your script code. But when you need to link to an external file, you usually need to add it in form of another script. So outside of this one, I'll come outside now and then make another script tag. And then inside it, I'll close it as well. Now, inside the script tag, I'm going to add a source, and that source is going to be referring to where my file is, demo_jsonp.php. Can see, I'm talking about this file. So you can see that inside this file, this is my function, and my function is calling this variable. And that function is what we have just added here inside our script tag. So let us go ahead and refresh. What do you think is going to happen by trying to access this name inside our demo.jsonp.php? Well, let's find out. If it works, then it should return name. If it's not, then it should blow up. So I'm going to go ahead and refresh and see. And now we see John. It's returning John, which means that this actually didn't blow up. It worked. If I checked in the file and I want something else, maybe age or city, I can just substitute for it in my code, and then it will bring it out. You can see age is now 30 and city is New York. Yeah. So aside from what I have, if I decide to add more things inside this file, let's say job, or let's say something like country and something like maybe occupation. Yeah, let's do occupation. Um, let's call it a software developer. I don't need this array, so I'm going to take this out actually. So now, if I go ahead and change property to maybe occupation, you should see a change now as well. Occupation. Oh, and if I refresh, you should see software developer. So now you can see that I am making a call to my file inside the same file that I am right now. Now, normally, web browsers block your website from requesting data from a completely different website for security reasons, and often you run to something like, cause issue, especially when you are trying to make a request, maybe in an authenticated way, that is a request that is not actually signed or verified. This is called the same origin policy. However, there is an exception. Browser allow you to load external code using a standard script tag. Think of it the way you load a font in your application or external library. So JSONP tricks the browser by wrapping your requested JSON data inside a standard JavaScript function call, allowing you to load data from any external server smoothly without domain error. And that exactly is what we have just demonstrated in this particular example. So our example shows that our HTML setup defines a local helper function called myFunc, which is this, that knows how to handle an object. So instead of using Ajax, it simply includes a script tag pointing to our demo underscore JSONP.php. And when that external script file download, it automatically triggers my function that is inside this script and then passes the fresh data straight into it. So in this example, this particular function here must be defined first because it sits on your page waiting patiently for a payload and ready to read whatever is contained inside this my obj dot name the second that it gets called. So that's the purpose of that function. And this part, instead of an Ajax request, the browser treats the backend PHP file, which is what we have here, like an external JavaScript asset. So instead of treating it like a server file, just treat this like an external JavaScript asset. So it downloads the file content and executes them immediately. So instead of sending a raw JSON like the usual way where we have double quotes on the key and the value pairs, so the file that we have here output a function execution string, and so the function call is the padding that wraps the data, and that function call is this my function, and then we are passing in the data that we want to see outside into it. So this is how you can bypass domain barrier by using JSONP to treat external files like a JavaScript asset.